Jungkook heard Jimin's secret recording. He froze and couldn't breathe. "Don't trust me, Jungkook. If you ever hear this, run." The voice crackled through the speakers like a ghost dragging its chains across the studio floor. Jungkook's hands trembled over the mixer as the words sank into his skin, deeper than any lyric ever had. The air around him thickened, congealing into a silence so unnatural it felt alive. His breath caught in his throat. It was Jimin's voice, broken, terrified, desperate. But this wasn't a song. This wasn't even a demo. This was a confession. He stumbled backward, the wheeled chair screeching as it hit the wall. The familiar studio, dimly lit, walls padded with years of creative triumphs, suddenly felt foreign, like the room itself was complicit in keeping a secret he was never meant to uncover. Rain lashed against the high windows of HYBE's basement studio, echoing like distant footsteps. The storm had knocked out the internet, leaving Jungkook alone in the building with nothing but static-laced recordings and his own spiraling thoughts. He had only been looking for the final vocal track Jimin mentioned earlier, a simple request, a favor, but what he found instead was a file hidden inside a folder labeled "Do Not Open, Final Mix," encrypted and buried beneath layers of harmless-looking samples. His curiosity had overridden his instinct. Now he wished it hadn't. Jungkook replayed the audio, hopping, praying it would sound different the second time. That maybe he had misheard, misunderstood. But it was worse. "I had no choice. I did what I had to," Jimin's voice whispered again, thick with emotion. "They told me it was the only way to protect you, to protect everyone." The file ended with a click, then silence. He stared at the monitor. No other files, no explanation, just that haunting confession stitched together with dread. His heart thundered against his ribs as he stood, unsure if he should delete the file or confront Jimin. But a deeper fear churned within him. What if Jimin wasn't the man he thought he knew? What if the person Jungkook trusted more than anyone had been hiding something dangerous? The air suddenly smelled of cold metal, wet wires, sweat, and something else he couldn't name. Panic flickered behind his eyes. He turned toward the door, ready to flee, when the lock clicked behind him. Not from his side. He wasn't alone. A shadow moved in the corridor beyond the glass, lingering just out of sight. Jungkook's breath finally came sharp, shallow, and too fast. His hands curled into fists. A soft knock, once, then again, rhythmic. He reached for his phone. No signal. The door handle twitched. Jungkook backed away, his mind racing. The building had emptied hours ago. No schedules, no staff. No one was supposed to be here, not even him. It was just supposed to be a quiet night in the studio, finishing a track. That was all. But now it felt like he had triggered something irreversible. Something Jimin never wanted anyone to hear. As the door creaked open, Jungkook held his breath, bracing for what or who was on the other side. And all the while, the last words from the recording echoed inside him like a curse. "If you ever hear this, run." "Who's there?" Jungkook's voice broke through the tension like a frayed wire snapping. No answer. The door inched open, light from the hallway casting a crooked line across the floor. His chest heaved. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but his legs refused. The air felt too thick to move through, like the room itself was holding him hostage. Then a figure stepped in. It was Jimin, but not the Jimin he knew. He looked different, pale, his eyes ringed with shadows. His usual warmth was gone, replaced with something colder, sharper. He shut the door behind him slowly, his eyes locked onto Jungkook like he was gauging every breath he took. "You listened to it," Jimin said quietly. No anger, no shock, just resignation. Jungkook's stomach dropped. "What the hell is that, Jimin?" Jimin didn't answer right away. He walked over to the console, his movements calculated, precise. The silence between them buzzed louder than any siren. "You weren't supposed to hear it," he said, voice low. "I figured that much out," Jungkook shot back, stepping forward. "What does it mean? What did you do? Who are they? Why the hell would you?" "I can't tell you," Jimin cut in, his voice like a blade. Jungkook stared at him, stunned. You think after hearing that I'm just going to walk away? Are you insane? You said you had to protect us from what, Jimin? What are you hiding from me? Jimin looked down at the console, his fingers tracing the edge of the panel. It's not just me, he said, softer now. You don't understand how deep this goes. If I say one wrong word, people could die. Are you threatening me now? Jungkook's voice cracked with disbelief. No, Jimin's head snapped up. I'm protecting you, Jungkook. I've been protecting you this entire time. Jungkook laughed bitterly. By lying to me. By keeping you out of something you can't fix, Jimin replied, stepping closer now. You heard that recording, but you didn't hear everything. That was one part of the truth, a truth I never wanted you to carry. Because once you know, you don't sleep the same again. You start looking over your shoulder. You stop trusting people. You start losing yourself. His voice trembled on the last sentence, and for the first time, Jungkook saw it fear. Not of exposure, but of guilt. What did you do, Jimin? He asked again, quieter this time. Jimin hesitated, then closed his eyes. They blackmailed me, he whispered. Last year, someone sent me a package, old photos, documents, a USB drive with footage that should never have existed. They knew things about us, about me, about what happened in Busan. Jungkook's blood turned to ice. Busan, that was an accident, wasn't it? Jimin didn't answer. The silence between them twisted into something monstrous. You told me it was just a fan incident, Jungkook said, his voice hollow. You said the reports were fake, that no one really got hurt. Jimin's lips pressed into a line. I had to. Jungkook stepped back. His mind reeled. The accident in Busan, the one that had nearly derailed their entire tour, had been chalked up to a small fire caused by a stage light malfunction. But there were rumors. Rumors about a backstage fight, a missing intern, a cover-up. You lied to all of us, Jungkook whispered. I kept you safe. No, you made me an accomplice. Jimin stepped forward, and for the first time, his facade cracked. I didn't want this, he said. Do you know what it feels like to wake up every day knowing someone is watching you, knowing that one mistake, one misstep, and the people you love become collateral? Jungkook's fists clenched. Then why didn't you tell me? Why carry it alone? Because you're not built for this kind of darkness, Jimin said, eyes burning. You still believe in people. You still think the truth matters. I couldn't stand the thought of that being taken from you. A beat of silence passed. Then Jungkook looked him straight in the eye. You were wrong, he said, because now it's already gone. Jimin's expression shattered for a moment, pure exposed devastation, but he quickly turned away. I need to show you something, he said, moving toward the far end of the room where a concealed panel in the wall slid open with a press. A small safe. He punched in a code, one Jungkook didn't recognize, and opened it. Inside was a second hard drive, labeled with a red tag, Final Hour Uncut. He handed it to Jungkook without a word. Jungkook took it, his hands still trembling. What's on it? Everything. Every message, every deal, every death. Jungkook's heart stopped. Death. Jimin looked him in the eye. They killed someone, Jungkook, and I helped cover it up. The room fell into absolute silence, save for the low hum of the monitors and the relentless storm outside. Jungkook didn't speak. He couldn't. His entire body was frozen, caught between horror and disbelief. Why now? He finally asked. Why are you giving me this? Jimin turned away. Because I'm leaving, tonight. Jungkook's breath hitched. What are you talking about? I've made arrangements. By the time the sun rises, I'll be gone, off the grid. The only way I can keep you safe now is by disappearing. No, Jungkook said, his voice raw. You don't get to drop this on me and vanish. You don't get to run. I've already been running for months, Jimin said. This is the end of my part in the story. Yours begins now. Jungkook reached for his arm. Don't you dare walk away from me. Jimin's voice cracked. I already have, Kook, you just didn't see it. He pulled away, heading toward the exit. Jungkook stared at the drive in his hand, his heart breaking under the weight of what he now carried. Everything they'd built, everything they believed. They were lies stitched together with fear and silence. When he looked up again, Jimin was gone. And the storm outside raged louder than ever. "You can't just disappear." Jungkook's voice tore through the empty hallway, his footsteps pounding after Jimin, but the corridor was already swallowed by the storm's echoes and silence. Jimin was gone. The hard drive burned in his palm. It felt heavier than it should, like it carried 100 truths sharpened into blades. Jungkook stared at it under the sterile white lights of the studio, his reflection faint in the dark monitor screen beside him. He had a choice: watch it or destroy it. The choice was already made. He shoved the drive into the nearest laptop, hands shaking as he entered the decryption key, left in a text file Jimin had slid into the same folder. Final Hour Uncut unlocked itself like a Pandora's box. The first file opened with a timestamp. September 12. Busan, backstage. A camera tilted slightly, capturing chaos, blurry figures yelling, a fire alarm blaring, the image flickering with every light surge. Then came the sound of an argument. Voices. "I told you to keep him out of this." That was Jimin. Another voice followed, male, deep, unfamiliar. "He saw it, Jimin. He was right there. What do you want me to do, erase his memory?" Then a scream. The camera jolted. Someone ran past, an intern, young, terrified. "Shut it down," the man said. "No witnesses." And then a flash of motion, a body slamming into the wall, a dull thud, then nothing. The screen cut to black. Jungkook stood frozen. The silence in the room felt louder than any scream he could imagine. The next file autoplayed, surveillance footage. That same intern, Min Yi, walking into the green room. Jimin entering behind him minutes later. A conversation. Yi visibly agitated, Jimin trying to calm him. Then the same deep-voiced man entered. No sound, just movement. And then the moment. Yi collapsed, limp. Jimin flinched, backed away. The man took something from his coat, placed it near the boy's body, then turned to Jimin. Spoke. Jimin didn't move. He looked like he was breaking apart inside. Another cut. A document now. HYBE Internal Security Protocol 7A, executed containment, asset compromised. Names redacted, but Jungkook saw Jimin's ID number in the margin. He staggered away from the screen. Every breath felt like it was being clawed out of his lungs. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. If you value his life, stop watching. His blood iced over. He looked at the camera in the top corner of the room. Were they watching him now? Had they been all along? He unplugged the drive, heart racing. He needed answers. But more than that, he needed to know who else knew, who else was involved. He dialed Namjoon. "Jungkook," Namjoon's voice was laced with sleep and worry. "It's 2 a.m, what's going on?" "Did you know about Busan?" Jungkook's voice cracked. Silence. "Namjoon, did you know?" he shouted. Namjoon exhaled heavily. "Come to my apartment, now, and don't bring your phone." Click. Jungkook stared at the screen. This couldn't be real, but it was. Every beat of his heart confirmed it. He grabbed a hoodie, yanked the hard drive from the laptop, and left the building through the underground garage. The rain had become a sheet of silver needles, and Seoul's streets were nearly empty, drowned in neon and fear. By the time he reached Namjoon's apartment, he was soaked through, heart racing. Namjoon opened the door wordlessly, eyes dark and tired. "You watched it," he said. "How long have you known?" Jungkook demanded. Namjoon closed the door, locked it, drew the curtains, then sat down like he was preparing for a confession in a courtroom. "I knew something went wrong in Busan," he said. "I didn't know the whole thing until 2 months ago. Jimin told me." "Then why didn't you tell me?" "Because he begged me not to," Namjoon said, his voice cracking. "He said you'd never look at him the same." "He was right," Jungkook muttered. Namjoon leaned forward. "Do you think this is easy for any of us? We're not the same boys who debuted 10 years ago. The world changed. The company changed. We had to grow teeth." Jungkook shook his head. This isn't about change. This is about murder, about cover-ups, about Jimin living in fear for a year. Namjoon's gaze hardened. And now you are too. Jungkook looked down at the hard drive. Someone messaged me, said if I kept watching, he'd be hurt. Namjoon stood. Then you're already in it. There's no backing out now. Jungkook looked up. Who are they? Namjoon hesitated, then walked over to his bookshelf, pulling out a thick journal. Inside were clippings, articles, photos, internal memos. A name kept repeating, BLACKROOT. A shadow group that works behind the scenes in entertainment, Namjoon said. Not just us. Labels, agencies, media outlets. They control perception. They erase problems. Jungkook felt his skin crawl. You're saying HYBE is working with them? I'm saying HYBE is them, Namjoon replied. Or at least was. It's complicated. Jungkook dropped onto the couch, head in his hands. What do we do? Namjoon didn't speak for a long moment. Then, we find Jimin before they do. But he said he was leaving, disappearing. And you think they'll let him? Namjoon asked. If he has a copy of that drive, if he tries to go public, they'll erase him. A cold silence filled the room. Jungkook stood. Then I'm going after him. Namjoon grabbed his wrist. Not alone. Jungkook's eyes locked with his. You in? Namjoon nodded once. Always. And somewhere across the city, under the flicker of failing street lamps and the thunder that split the sky in half, Jimin moved through shadows, watching, waiting, running. But even he didn't know the full truth yet. Because the files Jungkook saw weren't everything. They were only the beginning. The rain had stopped, but the tension hadn't. The city slept under a thick veil of fog as Jungkook and Namjoon moved quickly through Seoul's backstreets, faces obscured under dark hoodies and caps. Each passing alley felt like a trap, each flickering street lamp a spotlight. They spoke little, their silence stitched together by urgency and dread. Jungkook hadn't slept. He didn't want to. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Jimin's face, haunted, exhausted, broken, and that final whisper from the recording. Run. He wasn't running, he was chasing. They met Yoongi in a lockdown cafe in Itaewon just past 4 in the morning. The owner, a trusted old friend, let them in through the back. The place was dark, save for one table by the window, where Yoongi waited with a cigarette burning between his fingers, though he hadn't smoked in years. You're late, Yoongi said without looking up. Sorry, had to dodge a few tails, Namjoon said, pulling off his cap. Yoongi glanced at Jungkook. You finally listened to it. Jungkook nodded, his jaw tight. And I saw the footage. Yoongi stubbed out the cigarette. Then you know. I don't know anything, Jungkook snapped. I know pieces, I know shadows, but none of you told me the truth. Yoongi leaned forward, his voice steady. We didn't tell you because we knew how you'd react, like this, like fire. I have a right to react. A kid died, Yoongi, Jungkook hissed. And Jimin was left to rot in guilt while the rest of you what? Covered it up, looked the other way. It wasn't like that, Namjoon cut in. It was chaos. You were recovering from your surgery. They said it was an accident. We believed them at first. Jungkook turned to Yoongi. And when did you stop believing them? Yoongi's eyes darkened. When I saw the same man from the footage in our Tokyo hotel hallway 2 weeks later, smiling, carrying a duffel bag. The implication hit hard, too hard. Jungkook sat down slowly. So, we're all in this mess, but Jimin's the only one being hunted. No, Yoongi said. We're all being hunted, he's just the first target. Namjoon pulled out the journal again. Blackroot has been systematically silencing anyone who knows too much. Ex-managers, whistleblowers, even journalists, all listed as suicides or accidents. Jimin was never supposed to keep that file. That drive is a death sentence. Jungkook swallowed. Then why did he give it to me? Because he trusts you, Yoongi said, and because he knew you'd never stop once you heard it. I won't, Jungkook said, fists clenched. So where is he? Yoongi opened his laptop. A grainy security feed popped up on the screen, Jimin entering a train station in the countryside. We tracked his last known movement here, he said. Jeonju Station. He used to burn her phone to buy a ticket. No ID, classic ghost move. But why Jeonju? Namjoon asked. Yoongi didn't answer right away. Then he turned the laptop around and showed them an old photo, Jimin as a teenager, standing outside a small hanok house beside a woman with soft eyes. My aunt, Yoongi said. She took him in when he ran away from home once. Before debut, he must think it's safe. Jungkook stood. Then that's where we're going. Wait, Namjoon said. We're not the only ones tracking him. The cafe door suddenly creaked. All three of them reached instinctively. Jungkook gripping the chair like a weapon, Namjoon's hand in his jacket, Yoongi half rising. But it was Taehyung. Soaked pale, furious. You idiots really thought you could do this without me, he growled. Jungkook started, but Taehyung raised a hand. Save it, I know everything. I hacked into the server last week after Jimin called me drunk at 3 a.m., crying and saying goodbye. He walked straight to the table and slammed his phone down, showing a voice message. I'm sorry, T. I tried, I really tried. Don't let them turn Jungkook against me, please. Silence. Jungkook's voice was a whisper. He thinks I hate him. Taehyung's eyes softened. He's scared. He thinks all of us will turn our backs once we see how far it really goes. Well, he's wrong, Jungkook said, voice steel now. He's not alone anymore. They left for Jeonju at dawn. The drive was tense, filled with short bursts of conversation and longer silences. Jungkook stared out the window, watching Seoul disappear behind them as the countryside unfolded. Taehyung played a playlist Jimin once made during tour, quiet, melancholic tracks that bled into each other like lost memories. Midway through, Namjoon's burner buzzed. A blocked number. He answered with speaker on. A digitally masked voice spoke. You have something that doesn't belong to you. Turn over the drive and we'll forget this happened. Jungkook leaned forward. And if we do? Then Jimin dies. You all do. Yoongi hung up. They're bluffing, Taehyung muttered. No, Yoongi said grimly. They're warning us. Next call will be proof. By the time they reached the outskirts of Jeonju, the air had shifted, quieter, older, like the past was buried just beneath the soil. The hanok stood exactly as Yoongi remembered, tucked behind bamboo fences, vines creeping up its stone walls. Jungkook was the first to step out of the car. His heart was already ahead of him. He ran toward the house. The door was open. He called out. No answer. He stepped inside. And there, on the floor of the main room, lay Jimin's phone. Screen shattered, blood smeared across the floor. Jungkook's scream tore through the quiet countryside as the others came running in behind him. But Jimin was gone, again, and this time the trail was colder than ever. Don't touch anything, Yoongi barked as Jungkook stumbled toward the blood. But it was too late. His knees hit the floor beside Jimin's shattered phone, fingers trembling as they reached out to the red smear that sliced across the grain of the wood. Still wet, still warm. Taehyung stood frozen in the doorway, his breath caught somewhere between disbelief and denial. No, 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 no. He was here. He was just here. Namjoon closed the door behind them, locked it, and lowered the bamboo blinds over the windows. We don't know if he's dead, he said, scanning the room. This isn't enough blood for a fatal wound. Yoongi moved swiftly, pulling gloves from his coat and crouching near the tatami mat. He lifted it slightly, revealing scratches, deep ones, on the floor beneath. There was a struggle. No signs of forced entry. He let them in. Jungkook's voice broke. Then it was someone he trusted. They all looked at each other. And that silence, it wasn't just fear anymore. It was suspicion. Yoongi's eyes darkened. We need to check the rest of the house. They split up, searching every creaking hallway, every half-forgotten room and closet. Jungkook found himself in the kitchen, gripping the edge of the sink as nausea rolled over him in waves. The blood on his fingers wasn't his, but it might as well have been. He could still hear Jimin's voice from that cursed recording. If you ever hear this, run. But Jungkook had done the opposite. Taehyung stepped into the room behind him. He was scared out of his mind, he said. That night he called me. He said something about a list. People who were going to be erased. He said he wasn't the first and he wouldn't be the last. Jungkook turned, eyes raw. Do you think he gave it to me to finish what he started? I think, Taehyung said softly, he knew he wouldn't make it. Jungkook slammed his fist against the fridge, the dull metal denting under his rage. Then I'll finish it, for him. Namjoon called from the hallway. I found something. They rushed to the back room, where Namjoon stood beside a small wooden chest under the floorboards. Inside, old journals, a locked notebook, and a flash drive hidden beneath dried herbs. Jungkook grabbed it. We're taking all of it. Yoongi looked out the window. Not here, we move now, this place is burned. They packed everything in silence. Jungkook took one last look at the bloodstain on the floor. It wasn't just a mark, it was a message, a promise. By the time they returned to Seoul, the city had shifted. Something about the skyline felt off, like the lights were watching. They met at a safe house, an old apartment Namjoon used during his solo project days, no connections to the company, no electronic trail. Yoongi set up the drive on an isolated machine, while Jungkook, Taehyung, and Namjoon sat around a small coffee table littered with takeout and cold water bottles no one touched. The flash drive opened. A single folder. Cicada. Yoongi's eyes narrowed. This is deeper than we thought. The folder contained detailed profiles, photos, emails, audio recordings, not just of Jimin, but of all of them. Personal data, medical history, voice analysis, facial recognition, even psychological reports. Jungkook's stomach turned when he saw his own name next to the label. Asset Alpha, Unstable / Watchlist Tier 1. Taehyung's voice cracked. They've been studying us. Namjoon scrolled down. No, not just us. He clicked another subfolder. It opened a chart, names, dates, and a single repeating term. Project Cicada Phase IV activation pending. Phase IV, Jungkook whispered. What were the other three? Yoongi didn't answer. He was reading something else. His face had gone pale. Listen to this, he said, opening a heavily encrypted audio file. The voice was synthetic, modulated. Phase IV initiates the removal of compromised idols from public memory. Total erasure. Social media, news archives, AI auto-suggestions, all rewritten. Final step, physical containment or termination. Subjects, J-Park, L-Yuna, K-Han, J-Park 2, and P. Jimin. Jungkook's heart stopped. Erasure, like making it so they never existed. That's not science fiction anymore, Yoongi said. They have media control, digital scraping tools, and enough AI to automate historical rewriting. If they wanted, they could delete us in a day. Taehyung grabbed the screen. They put Jimin on that list, he knew. That's why he ran. Namjoon stared at the monitor. And they'll come after us next. Jungkook stood up. Then we make them bleed first. Yoongi closed the laptop. You sure you're ready for this? No, Jungkook said, but I don't care. There was a knock at the door. All four of them froze. 3 knocks, a pause, 2 knocks, then silence. Jungkook whispered, That's the signal. That's the one Jimin taught me, from when we used to sneak out. Yoongi opened the door slowly. A figure stumbled in, bruised, bleeding, barely conscious. Jimin. His lips were cracked. His voice was barely more than a whisper. They're watching. They know everything. I didn't make it in time. They've already activated Phase IV. Jungkook caught him before he fell, cradling him like a lifeline. You're safe. You made it. But Jimin's eyes weren't focused. He stared at something far behind them, like the ghost of something too terrible to name. No, he whispered. We're too late. Then he blacked out. The room was chaos. Namjoon slammed the door shut while Yoongi ripped the first aid kit open, barking orders. Blankets now, towels, tea, press here hard. Keep him from losing more. Jungkook held Jimin's head in his lap, brushing the blood-crusted hair from his forehead. He was ice cold, barely breathing. There were bruises blooming across his ribs and cuts that looked like they were made by wire. Torture marks. Someone had tried to break him. Taehyung's hands were shaking as he pressed down on the wound above Jimin's hip. Why did he come back? He should have run. He should have gone somewhere, anywhere else. He came back for us, Jungkook muttered. Even after all of it. Jimin stirred, letting out a faint groan. His eyes fluttered, unfocused, lips dry. Jungkook leaned closer. Taehyung, it's me, it's Kook. You're safe now. Stay with me. Jimin's cracked lips moved. They're inside. Yoongi looked up. What? Jimin's breath came in a wheeze. Not just HYBE, not just Blackroot. It's inside government, entertainment bureau, even security services. Namjoon froze. You're saying this isn't just a rogue group? Jimin nodded weakly. It's systemic, a sanctioned experiment. We're not just targets, we're subjects. Taehyung's voice broke. What the hell does that mean? Jimin opened his eyes, wild and distant. The fame, the pressure, the breakdowns, none of it was accidental. They monitored everything. Mental health, crowd response, even our dreams. They laced our water with enhancers during tour, called it a supplement. It was. Jungkook's chest tightened. Enhancers. Neurological stimuli, mood regulators, designed to push us to the edge without tipping us over. Jimin laughed bitterly, the sound mangled by pain. Except I tipped. I saw everything. Namjoon paced the room, his hands over his mouth. They manufactured the chaos, controlled the fans, the scandals, even the redemption arcs. Every time one of us cracked, it was data. Metrics. Yoongi exhaled slowly. Project Cicada wasn't about controlling the narrative. It was about controlling us. Taehyung whispered, we were never free. Silence fell like a dropped body. Jungkook stood, hands clenched at his sides. Then we exposed them. Everything. Names, methods, footage. We burned their whole system to the ground. Jimin reached for his sleeve, eyes suddenly sharp. They'll kill everyone who remembers. That's the final phase. Wipe the data. Then wipe the minds. They're working on something called regenesis. A neural protocol targeted memory alteration through subliminal content. They're testing it on trainees now. Namjoon looked sick. You're saying they can erase us from inside people's heads? Jimin nodded. Jungkook laughed, cold and humorless. Then we give them something they can't erase. Yoongi nodded. We go public. Taehyung frowned. But if they control the media? We bypass it, Namjoon said. Anonymous drops, pirate servers, hijack live streams. They can't shut everything down at once. Yoongi went to the back room and returned with an old rig, an off-grid transmitter, salvaged from a scrapped stage set. This'll let us tap into unlisted channels, low frequency, analog. Jimin coughed, blood. There's one more thing, one of us isn't who we think. The room snapped to attention. What are you saying? Namjoon asked slowly. There's a mole, Jimin said. Someone close, one of the originals feeding them information. Taehyung backed away from the group. Don't look at me. We're not accusing anyone, Namjoon said carefully. Then start, Jimin snapped, coughing again. Because that's how they found me. Someone gave them the address. Jungkook's eyes scanned the room. Yoongi, stern and calculating. Namjoon, composed but rattled. Taehyung, his oldest friend, visibly shaking. He hated this. Hated the idea that after all they'd been through, mistrust was what remained. Did you tell anyone about the Hanok? He asked the group. Everyone shook their heads. Jimin hissed in pain. Then someone's lying. Yoongi narrowed his eyes. We need to split up, find evidence, devices, trackers, anything. Namjoon nodded. And no one moves alone. They swept the safe house from corner to corner. Jungkook found nothing. Taehyung found a secondary phone hidden behind a vent, Namjoon's old backup. It's been used, Taehyung said, holding it up. Recent calls, a text sent last night. Namjoon stared at it. I haven't touched that phone in months. Someone did, Yoongi muttered. Tension rippled through the room again. Then, without warning, the phone buzzed. Unknown number. Too late, Transmission already failed. Phase IV is live. A cold chill spread through them. Yoongi yanked open his laptop, fingers flying. They've started the purge. Look, every article on Jimin before 2023 is disappearing from the servers. Image files corrupted. Video links dead. Tweets vanishing. Namjoon turned on the television. A news broadcast showed a tribute to fallen stars, but Jimin wasn't among them. No mention, no photo, as if he'd never existed. They're not going to wait, Taehyung whispered. They're going to finish us tonight. Jungkook looked at Jimin, still shivering on the couch. Then tonight we fight back. Yoongi handed him the drive. We leak the files, all of it. No edits, no caution, just raw truth. Jimin grabbed Jungkook's hand, squeezing it. If I die, make sure they remember me right. You're not dying, Jungkook said. Not like this, not forgotten. Namjoon connected the drive. Initiating upload. We'll crash every private feed in the city, TVs, phones, billboards. They'll see everything. A bar appeared. Uploading, 2%. The lights flickered. Yoongi swore, they're jamming us. A thud sounded from outside. Then another. Footsteps, heavy, many. Taehyung peered through the blinds. Vans, he said. Black vans, no plates. Jungkook stood, jaw clenched, heart hammering. Let them come. Jimin sat up, weak but burning with defiance. We're not afraid anymore. The walls of the safe house trembled as the first blast shook the street outside. Glass cracked. The lights flickered violently, then went out completely. Total darkness. Jungkook reached for Jimin instinctively, shielding him with his body as Namjoon kicked over the couch, creating a makeshift barrier. Taehyung pulled the curtains back just a sliver, enough to see men in black uniforms, faces masked, weapons drawn surrounding the building. No insignia, no identification, just ghosts in human skin. Yoongi's voice cut through the dark. We're not going to make it unless we finish the upload. I need 60 more seconds. Jungkook grabbed a lamp, smashed the bulb, and plunged the metal into a socket. Sparks lit the room as he improvised light. Then buy it, no matter what. Namjoon threw open the back closet and pulled out an old electric guitar case. Inside, Jungkook's eyes widened, was a custom rifle. Broken into parts, Namjoon assembled it silently. Only in case of apocalypse, he muttered. Jimin coughed behind the couch, blood still in his mouth but his voice clear. They're here to erase me. They'll do the same to all of you. Don't let me be the last one who remembers. Yoongi's screen glowed faintly in the dark. Upload, 42%. The bar crawled like molasses. Taehyung moved to the door. I'll stall them. Jungkook grabbed his arm. We stay together. They'll storm the building. If we don't split them, we're all dead. Taehyung smiled faintly. I'll give them the show they want. Namjoon handed him a smoke grenade. 3 seconds after the pin, you know the drill. Taehyung pulled the hood over his head, stepped outside, and vanished into the fog. A moment later, yelling, a flash, then gunfire. Jungkook fought the instinct to follow. Focus, how much time? 75 seconds, Yoongi hissed. More gunfire, this time closer. Namjoon took position at the front window, firing warning shots. Not to kill, just to slow them down. The van tires screeched as the agents ducked for cover. A voice boomed through a megaphone. Turn over the subject. The broadcast ends now. But inside, Yoongi whispered, no, it begins now. Upload, 81%. Suddenly, the power cut completely. Total blackout. The screen went dark. No, Jungkook shouted. Yoongi didn't panic. He reached into his bag, pulled out a backup battery the size of a brick, slammed it into the laptop, and rebooted. The screen flickered to life. Resuming upload, 83%. Then a crash. The front door exploded inward. Namjoon opened fire. 2 agents dropped. Jungkook grabbed a steel rod from the fireplace and swung at the first one through the smoke. Bones cracked. Screams echoed. Jimin was trying to stand now. Bleeding, shaking, but his eyes were locked on the screen. I remember everything, he whispered. One agent grabbed Jungkook from behind. Another darted for Yoongi. Jimin surged forward and tackled him. No strength left, but all the will in the world. The screen flashed white. Upload complete. Yoongi hit enter. In the span of a breath, every screen in Seoul flickered. Smartphones, smart TVs, public displays, every single device hijacked. The video began, the truth, Jimin's voice. The footage of the intern, the documents, the names, the threats. The system had been pierced. The world would know. Jungkook turned to the last man standing in the doorway, blood smeared across his visor. "It's over," he said. The man didn't answer. He looked up as his earpiece buzzed. He listened. And then, to their shock, he lowered his weapon. Orders rescinded. Namjoon whispered, "We broke the narrative." Sirens wailed in the distance, not the enemy, but the city, police, civilian mobs. Chaos was coming, but it was the right kind. The kind that comes after people wake up. Yoongi shut the laptop and exhaled. "We won." Taehyung stumbled back inside, coughing, one side of his face burned. "Did it work?" Jungkook smiled through the tears in his eyes. "Yeah, you should have seen it." Jimin collapsed beside them, his head on Jungkook's shoulder. "Will they remember me now?" Jungkook pulled him close. "Forever." Outside, the first rays of dawn broke over Seoul's skyline. The light cut through the fog, gold and defiant, as if the sun itself was bearing witness to the truth at last. The system didn't fall that day, but it cracked. And cracks, if deep enough, bring everything down eventually. They weren't just idols anymore. They were survivors. They were the ones who remembered.